Hi everyone, thanks for being patient with me. I'm sorry this is late and after class hours. Yeah, so part of the reason why I try and be understanding of when you have stuff come up is because I will have stuff come up. So anyways, I just hope this is useful to kind of help everyone make sense of the suggestions that I've been making on your revisions for your press release. And just so everyone kind of has some touch points for improvement and just ways to start thinking about your writing as we start diving a little more deeper into the writing that we're doing. So please email me with any more questions that you may have, especially about my revisions if they don't make sense, if you can't understand my handwriting. Email me or come see me. But this is also the longest PowerPoint presentation I've ever put together, and I'm sorry about that, but I hope it'll be useful to you. Because again, if you can't write a lead, you can't write. So part of what we do in communication, specifically in PR, but even in journalism, is your lead is, your ticket in the door. So we're going to focus on that and kind of drill into some ideas here with based on the feedback and what I've seen in your press releases. So our universal feedback for everybody is everyone is doing a great job trying to fit all the 5 W's and H into their first sentence. And the point is you really don't need to. And so maybe I should have framed that differently when we talked about it earlier. But it's not always necessary to have all of the 5 W's and H in that first sentence. One way to know that you have too much information that in that lead is if it's awkward. So I always suggest reading your writing out loud, especially if writing is something that you're not comfortable with, it's not something that you like to do. Start reading your writing out loud because it'll sound weird to you if it is weird. If it doesn't sound like something you would say, or maybe it sounds too much like something, the way you would say something, then it reads the same way. It doesn't read, it is not correct. So get in the habit of reading your writing out loud. That's one way to fix it. But what we want to do is kind of really focus on identifying what's newsworthy in a press release, what's newsworthy in a bit of information. And the more you identify newsworthiness, the more you'll see why press releases aren't really like the gospel of public relations. Because not everything warrants a press release. But there's key things that you want to do to play up the newsworthiness of a press release in order to get it placed with a reporter or in order to pique a reporter's interest. So we're going to focus on the newsworthiness and start thinking about how we're placing key information at the very beginning of your lead. And so my first tip is the when and the where in a press release are usually what you can save for last. You don't need to put that into the lead unless the event or the location is the story. So say you're planning an event, a specific event, and this is the first news people have of it, then sure, try and fit that into your lead. But otherwise, the when and the where can go at the end. So let's look back at our assignment. This comes pretty much straight from the Canvas assignment. So Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin has called a special session of the legislature, which began today, which adjourned at the end of May to revisit the state budget and fix a $250 million hole after the state Supreme Court found unconstitutional a cigarette fee passed in the last week of regular session. The special session is expected to convene on September 25th. See, that's today. You were asked to write a press release for OICA's response to the governor's call for a special session, stating OICA's position on the special session, creating direct quotes, demonstrating an understanding of the relationship between the need for the special session and OICA's mission, etc., etc. So when I say you're stating OICA's position on the special session, it's not necessarily, what they feel about the tax breaks or the tax cuts, but do they support the special session? Do they think it's necessary? So it's the special session itself, not the remedies that will be brought forth in the special session. So let's break down this directive a little bit more. So I've pulled out the key elements of this: the special session, the fixing the $250 million hole in the budget, and the cigarette fee. Those are kind of the key parts of this special session and what this is all about. And furthermore, You're supposed to focus on OICA's response to the governor's call for a special session. So think about that. Because some of you framed your press releases as if it wasn't from OICA, as if it was the governor. That's not what we were supposed to do. We're supposed to do it from OICA's response or OICA's position. And also, you needed to show an understanding between the relationship between the need for the special session and OICA. So what that means is the special session was called, and you should have known this through your research, the extra research that I kind of warned you that you might need to do if you're not involved in public affairs, or current events, that the hole in the budget directly impacts particular state agencies that OICA works with. So there was a lot of reasons for OICA to be concerned or interested in this special session, and you needed to find out more about that. But everything that you bring forth to this press release was supposed to relate that understanding of the reason why they cared about the special session, because you were trying to educate reporters in the media on why they care. So really, what's important here? Why are these things important? Something to understand that when you go to when you become a professional, your job is going to be weeding through masses of information and making it intelligible to your clients, but also to particular targeted publics. You're going to have to go through so much noise to determine the most important pieces of this information to relate back to your client, but also forward to the public. You will have to be able to connect this information in meaningful ways with the needs and positions of your client or your employer or the organization that you're working for. This is the mark of successful PR writing. Your outcomes, that's a whole other issue. But if you can relate in your writing the position of your client, and in this case it's OICA, and connect it to all these other ideas, that's successful. That furthers your client's work, and it makes you look good. So that is the mark of successful PR writing. So going back to the original situation, what is really important here? You need to ask yourself that. The governor has called a special session. Why has she called a special session? To fill a massive hole in the state budget. Why does OICA care? The hole will directly impact the agencies OICA works with to fulfill its mission. Do we know why we care yet? And we should always ask, who cares about this? Why should they care about this? What makes this interesting? What makes this timely? What makes this newsworthy? What makes this novel? All those traditional elements of newsworthiness, news values. We need to consider these things when we're evaluating an event or whatever we're writing a press release for. So how do we connect the event to the needs of our client? So why would our client care about this event? Then ask yourself, what is the client's mission? What is important to your client? What is the client trying to accomplish? And so why do they care about this event? Chances are the organization is laser focused on this. So you should be too. So we connect the mission, why it's important to them. All these elements determine all the connective tissue between our different puzzle pieces. And then we add in the who, what, why, and how as needed. And that is what should go in your lead. Usually. Not always. Again, you need to be flexible and understand that, each event kind of may have its own rules, or is always going to be exceptions to the formula. So use your news judgment, and that's what we're working on here. So let's start talking about language and how we're going to work with language here. So we have the information, and what I like to do, and the way I kind of think of things, is they are various pieces of information that you should break into puzzle pieces, and you kind of move those puzzle pieces around like, Tetris or Jenga or something like that based on the importance to your client. So you might ask, is it the who that's the most important part? Are they looking, or is the who, is your client looking for recognition? Are they nominating someone for an award? Did they make an important hire? Kind of goes back to our backgrounders for this week. It all depends on the reason for the press release. If it's a product release, probably the company is going to be the most important element. So you apply this question to the rest of the 5 W's and H, like which part of this is most important? Based on the relevance to your client and their goals with the press release, you will place these pieces, using good grammar, in order of each piece's importance. Literally, you can order it, count it off 1, 2, 3, 4, and you put it in the order from most important to least important in that sentence, in the lead. So what are the puzzle pieces of our assignment? OICA, the special session, the budget hole, the cigarette fee, the impact on children, state agencies and children, the date and place of the special session. What else do we need to know? Well, we know what is important to OICA. They focus on children. We know that Democrats and Republicans have very different opinions on how this should be fixed. And we know that things need to happen in a bipartisan manner. And like I've said this once, I'll say it many times, if you can relate things around to children, seniors, and veterans, it's going to be a winning narrative. People care about those 3 things more than they care almost about anything else. And we're dealing with children here. But is there stuff we can leave out of those puzzle pieces? Or are those puzzle pieces that we can move to the side and put somewhere else in the press release? Yes. Very simply, yes. Like what? The cigarette fee, the date it starts, and the location. Those are, again, the wins and the wheres. So let's put those at the very bottom of the inverted pyramid. Here's what I pull out as the most important information. So OICA, of course, the special session, the budget hole, and the impact on agencies that work with children. So we're going to bring in OICA's mission to kind of determine our verbs and our connective tissue. And it's going to look something like this. So OICA plus whether they support or reject the call for the special session. There's a verb. See this little formula that I have here. Of course, we can edit these things, but these are my puzzle pieces. Because again, we want to capture a reporter's attention as quickly and as early as possible to tell them immediately why they should care about our press release. So back to my formula. Here's my suggestion. OICA supports the governor's special session to fix the $250 million hole in the state budget that will directly impact the state agencies working with children. But I think that can be better. Again, this is dealing with children. We should all care about the welfare of our children. Let's make this better. So that sentence becomes, OICA applauds the governor's special session to fix the $215 million hole in the whole state budget that will directly impact the state agencies working with Oklahoma's most vulnerable children. And we know the background of OICA. We know what their issues are. We know what they care about. So it's fairly strong language. I mean, applauding, and that means a strong endorsement for this special session, right? That's not a passive agreement with something. That's a big deal. But rather than just kids, all kids, we're not talking about the kids from Nichols Hills. We're talking about kids that are really vulnerable, that are in the worst situations possible. So we're using our powers as PR professionals to bring in much more potent and really subjective language to convey the position of our client. We don't have to be objective here. Remember, there's other tricks of the trade and tricks of writing that we can use through strong verbs and really good writing practices to convey what our client feels. We could just kind of go back a little bit and say OICA supports the special session, but I really like applaud because I think it's a strong word and I think it accurately conveys probably how they feel about this session. Again, we'd have to go through the approval process and maybe, Joe would say, no, I don't think that's too much, but this would be my suggestion. And then also, there wasn't, look at, kind of compare everyone else's first try to write the lead and then compare it to what I put out. So again, you guys all did such a great job packing all that information into one sentence. But some of it we can clean out, kind of like a messy closet. You don't have to keep everything in there. Some of it can go in the attic. So back to the inverted pyramid structure. The elements of our lead are puzzle pieces, but each paragraph is another sort of puzzle piece in a press release. So you order your paragraphs from most to least important. Just like in that first sentence, you do the exact same thing, but with the actual elements of the sentence. So this is kind of meta if you think about it. Rely on the inverted pyramid to order your paragraphs. Information like the date and the location of the special session, they're pretty much common knowledge for any reporter that you're sending this to. We're not supposed to assume things, but in this case we kind of can. So put the new, most newsworthy information at top. But then you want each paragraph to be wholly self-sufficient. So you can really take parts out that might not need to be there and you can move them around, and all you do is hone that inverted pyramid rather than take away from the meaning of the information. So you're not losing information when you move stuff around. You're just reinforcing what's most important and then kind of leaving the details at the bottom. And just something to know that transitions aren't as important in press releases, different from other forms of writing that we'll do. So like in the background or reading, it really talks about transitions and changing sentence structure. And changing sentence structure, yes, is kind of important, but we don't really need transitions because, again, we don't need to have so much connection between each paragraph. We want to convey not so much a narrative as importance and what's more important than other things through the structure of our press release. But for those who really may struggle with writing, if it's not your old hat, if it's not something you're terribly comfortable with, always keep it simple. And we can work on putting on the bells and whistles later. So just do a subject, a verb, and a predicate. That doesn't fail. That's not going to fail you. That's good, solid writing, and it's completely sound and it's completely legit. Better to be safe than sorry. If you can write a solid, sound sentence just like this, you're fine. Do that. So that example would be OICA supports the governor's special session. I mean, really, you don't need a lead that says much more than that. So all you got to do is strip it down, keep it simple. Again, if it's not something you're strong with, keep it simple. You'll be safe that way, and you'll do a beautiful job. So I can kind of relate this back to a homily back in the day when I was in high school and I went to church still. And my priest said, I remember him saying something about God loves you so much, he'll have to break your heart to get into it. And I don't know, that just kind of stuck with me, but I just kind of thought about this with this. Sometimes you have to break a sentence and an idea apart to kind of find its key elements and then to put it back together. So you may have to break sentences and ideas apart to fix them. So that's what I have for today. So for next week, we're going to do an AP style and grammar quiz again. I hope the Qualtrics version was painless today. Canvas made me nearly shoot somebody because it was so frustrating trying to put it on Canvas first, so I had to put it on Qualtrics. But we'll be doing chapter 6 and working with words and the numerals again out of AP Style. There's so much in both of those that we could probably just focus the whole semester on them. So sorry for making you buy those whole books. Hopefully they'll come in handy at some point. Then next week we'll turn to brochures and pamphlets. So I'll assign some readings for that. Look for that on Canvas, and bring a pamphlet or brochure to class as your PR writing example. The next week we'll have an online test on the 9th. Again, if I destroy Canvas first, don't be surprised. I'll let you know. And then this week I'll start sending back feedback on your backgrounders. You can come to my office if you want to pick up your communications audits. I have those graded. I didn't feel like scanning them and sending them to you. So come get them if you want them. And again, the way this revision process works is we go back and forth until I say you're good. You don't send me a final draft until I tell you it's final, basically. So just know that this is a process and we're going to do it until you get it right, because I know you can all do that. So just want to make sure everyone turned in their press release their revision draft this week. If you didn't, you need to get that to me as soon as possible, and come see me if you need me. Have a good week.